Hey there, it's Shauna. I hope you're doing great. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for November 13th. So this week is all about discovering powerful mysteries, because this week you may have opportunities to discover some new things about yourself, maybe about something that's been a little bit mysterious, and to also connect with a deeper layer of power, of your own personal power. So I'm excited to share the astrology of this week with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So earlier in the week, the first aspect that we have is Venus conjunct Jupiter in the sign of Scorpio. So this is a really interesting aspect because Venus is about attraction, love, beauty, and Venus tells us about what it is that we're attracted to. So this is Venus in a person's birth chart, but then also just the transiting Venus in the sky. It gives us information as far as what it is that we're drawn to at this point in time. And so when Venus comes together with Jupiter, Jupiter is about luck and expansion, and it's about expanding our perspective on things. It's about exploring new possibilities. It's about being inclusive, and it can also just put us in the right place at the right time to take advantage of an opportunity. So this is all in the sign of Scorpio. So Scorpio likes to hang out on the more dark or mysterious kind of side of things. And so what this means is you may find yourself drawn towards something that feels like mysterious, or that you want to research, you want to figure out more about something. And that could be a person, it could be a situation, it could be a project. But whatever it is, this is a really great time, especially earlier in the week, to dig into the details of something. If something is intriguing to you, as long as it's healthy, it's not destructive, it's good to go into that and to figure that out. So you may be feeling that. Again, because it's Scorpio, I would watch that. Watch where you put your energy, because whenever Scorpio is around, there can be a tendency to fixate on something, and so that, again, it can be helpful or it can be harmful. So just watch what it is that you put your emotional energy into. The other part of this is that we are having aspects where Mercury and Venus are making aspects to Neptune. And so Mercury is our mind, it's our thought process. Venus, again, it's what we're attracted to. It's what we find alluring and pleasurable. So when these 2 planets, it's basically our mind and our heart, are coming into contact with Neptune, which is about dissolving boundaries, illusion and fantasy, and even spirituality. So what this basically means is that our logic and our emotions and what it is that we're drawn to, things may feel a little bit fuzzy, especially earlier in the week. And so so this is not necessarily a time to make major commitments or to try and figure out everything in your life. You may want to, you may feel like things are a little bit confusing, and that's okay. It's no big deal. A great week to, if you are feeling that way, to focus more on the creative side, because Neptune is also about creativity. It's about artwork, music, and just getting lost in the flow of things. So if you're feeling like your mind is a little bit fuzzy, that's definitely a possibility for this week. Don't stress about it. It's okay. Put yourself into situations where you can just go with the flow. And then later in the week, we have some more dynamic energy. So we may be feeling this building towards the end of the week. So end of the week, we have our new moon in Scorpio. And then we also have Mars squaring Pluto. And so I put these 2 together because they're very much around these themes of personal power and how it is that we use our power, how it is that we use control, either in a helpful or in a harmful way. And it's also reflecting issues that may come up around shame or guilt or even anger. And so that's not to say that these things will come up, but that may be something that comes up where you notice out of nowhere, maybe these feelings that are really intense and kind of, it's I think of them as hot feelings, hot, they burn, shame and guilt and anger. So if those do come up this weekend, that's just so that those can be processed, and basically so that they can be purged. Because Mars is about assertiveness, it's about drawing boundaries, it's being direct. Mars is the warrior energy. And so a warrior is not like, oh, hey, is it okay if I sit over here? Is it okay if I do this? Like a warrior just does. And so it's very direct. It's very assertive. And when Mars is squaring Pluto, Pluto is all about transformation, regeneration. It's about the death and rebirth process. So what that means is these things around drawing boundaries, saying no, saying no when you mean no, or yes when you mean yes, and being really honest with yourself and the people in your life as far as what it is that works for you and what it is that doesn't work for you. All of these things may come up. And it may feel kind of intense, I'm not gonna lie. It might be like, you're like, whoa, oh my gosh, I'm feeling a lot of feelings. And then this is enhanced by the new moon in Scorpio, because new moon is a time where we get to really connect with ourselves. We get to connect with our intuition and what it is that we want to create over the whole next monthly cycle. And Scorpio, again, it's about like the darker side of life. It's about the mysterious. It's about really connecting to the deeper truths within ourselves, and being okay with having feelings that feel uncomfortable, like shame or guilt or resentment and things like that. And so, so what I would say this week is, don't try to push those feelings away. Sometimes they need to come up and be felt very intensely, and then there will be a shift. But it's not something that you can like manipulate. So I hope that makes sense. And then I have 3 tips for you to navigate through all this energy. So tip number 1 is, especially earlier in the week, go with the flow. And so that's because we have a lot of Neptune earlier in the week, and then we may have a more emotionally intense weekend. So go with the flow. Don't try to force things. If you're feeling tired, take a nap. I mean, if you can, you know, like give yourself some downtime. If you're feeling really amped up, go for a walk, go for a run, but just take it moment by moment. This is not a week to try to like force things or to really be on a regimen necessarily. So that's tip number 1, to go with the flow. And tip number 2 is to channel your emotions into a project. So if you are feeling really intensely about something, and again, it could go either way. You could feel more tired if you're feeling the Neptune energy, or you may feel more amped up if you're really feeling this Mars and Pluto energy. Channel that into something. And I want you to do that because that energy has to go somewhere. So if we're feeling intensely, if we don't do something with it, then it's just gonna simmer and it's gonna kind of like become like a pressure cooker kind of thing. And so whether you do that with physical activity, which is a great outlet, but this is also a great week to like channel that into something that that reaps benefits for you later. So like a project or something that you're working on. It doesn't have to be creative. It can just be like, I don't know, like if you want to paint a wall in your house or something like that, anything like that. Channel that emotion into something that you can do that makes you happy later. So that's tip number 2. And before I give you tip number 3, I want to read a quote to you. So this is a book that I really like that I've started to reread. It's called Dancing in the Flames: The Dark Goddess in the Transformation of Consciousness. Oh my, that sounds intense, right? So it's by Marianne Woodman and Eleanor Dickinson. I'll show you the thing. So that looks, holy cow, like that's fire, right? So in this entire book, she talks about the dark goddess and the power of the dark goddess and how it's so important. And it's something that we're not really familiar with, that we're not really comfortable with in our current culture. And I wanted to talk about this because Pluto is essentially the dark goddess. And so Scorpio is also symbolized by the dark goddess. It's like that deep, intense, and fiery goddess kind of energy that we don't always talk about. So she's talking here about rediscovering the light inside of matter. So she says, not until we recognize the divine immanence, the light of the goddess in matter, can we hope to establish a balance, a reconnection with our own deepest nature that can root us in a world of meaning and imagination. Perhaps we will have to face the darkness, walk out on the moor alone at nightfall, or dive to the bottom of the sea before the old ossified ego boundaries can be shattered to make room for the dance. And so I like this especially for this week because when we have Pluto involved, when we have Scorpio involved, we have a lot of Scorpio energy going on right now, but especially this week, it is important to go down into the darkness. And what that means is to get more comfortable with feelings that feel uncomfortable, to kind of like snuggle up to our fear and our resentment and where it is that we feel even not good enough. And to get close to those feelings, to really understand them without trying to change them right away. Because when we try to like change something and to release something, we kind of like create this weird block around it because we're trying to reject a part of ourselves, basically is what's happening. And so when we stop rejecting what it is that we're actually feeling in real time, ironically, that's when the feeling can shift and change and it can transform. So just something to think about. I think that's really important for this week. And then tip number 3 is to take care of yourself this week. And so what I mean by that is I want you to focus on you. When we have aspects with Pluto and Neptune too, sometimes if we're feeling really amped up, we can focus on what someone else is doing and how that affects us and what they should be doing differently, because that is either annoying or not convenient or it fucks up our life in some way. And so what I want you to focus on this week is I want you to bring your energy back to yourself. And so that may mean that if you're in a situation that someone is annoying you or doing something that affects you, how can you either remove yourself from that situation, or how can you respond differently so that it doesn't influence you in such a negative way? And so this may be a tricky thing. I hope this makes sense. But what I want you to focus on is not necessarily controlling other people and trying to get other people to do the things that they should do, but what can you do? What can you do to enhance your life? This is another big takeaway for Pluto too, because Pluto is about control and power dynamics. And so the shadow side of Pluto is trying to control other people. But what I want for you is I want you to control and have dominance over yourself and over what it is that you can do. Because really, like, you can only do so much with other people. And trying to control an exterior situation sometimes can kind of just like throw that back onto yourself, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's in control of your life. I mean, you know, we're only in control of so much, but you're in control of how it is that you respond to things. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's kind of an intense week. Follow the tips, you'll be cool, take care of yourself, and it will be an intense and awesome week. So other resources for you, if you want to get more into this astrology of this week, you can listen to the podcast that I co-host with my friend Mel of Energetic Principles. The podcast is called The Feminine Principle, Astrology for Authentic Living, and I'll have a link down below. You can listen to it on iTunes or Podbean or even YouTube. And then if you want to inquire about an astrology reading or astrotherapy with me, you can email me for pricing on that and to figure out how that works. I'll have my email address below. And then if you're watching this earlier in the week, we may still have a few spaces open for a half-day retreat that I am co-hosting on the new moon in Scorpio. So I'll have details for that below. We may already be sold out by the time you're watching this, but I'll put that down below just in case. And then lastly, oh my gosh, so many things. I have the 2018 Moon Journal, which I've been writing, which by the time you're watching this, it will probably be ready for sale. So I'll have a link down below for that. You can get that on Etsy. And again, it's the 2018 Moon Journal. And it has tips and guidance and inspiration and action items for every single moon, new moon and full moon throughout the whole next year. So I'm excited to get that up to you all. And yeah, I think that's all for now, if that wasn't enough, right? Wishing you an amazing week and sending lots of love. I'll connect with you soon. Namaste.